In this video, we will look at the top 10 Excel functions and features that will help you the most. So let's get started. The first function I want to show you is the average function. So let's say we want to average a few numbers, and these are the numbers. So I'll just type 44, 66, 77, 35, 54, 76 and 26. So these are the numbers that we want to average. So it's pretty easy. We can simply write the function here with equal to average, open bracket, and then select the data range. All our numbers are in here. We close the bracket and press enter. We are given the exact average. As you can see here, it is a pretty easy to use function. The second function we will look at is the sum function. So the sum function will add all the numbers together, and it starts with equal to sum, open bracket, and simply select all the numbers. Close the bracket and press enter. That's it. The total is 378. So if any of the numbers changes, then the average and the sum would change as well. So let me change this to 88, and you can see that the average has now changed and the sum has also changed. If you don't want to see so many decimal places, we can simply click on the answer and choose here to reduce the decimal places. For example, I have only chosen 2. The next function I want to show you is the round function. So that when we use the round function, you don't have to click on the reduce zeros icons, and straight away answer will be rounded to the number of decimals you want. So we could just say round of this number, and I want only 1 decimal place. So I'll get 55.6. So this is rounded to a single digit, and if you don't want any decimals, we could have written comma 0. So this only becomes 56, and of course we can do the remove the number formatting and let it be just a 56 as well. So by writing these formulas, the good thing is you can control the number of decimals. Now we could have done the average by doing the rounding directly. So we could have written average of all these numbers, and of course you know that this will give you the decimal. So we can blanket the average function by adding the round on top of it. So round the average to 0 decimal places. So this way we will directly get a rounded whole number, which is 56. So you can see this. Now if I change the numbers back to 77 or 56, as you can see, I only get 55 here. So this is a combination function combining the round and the average. Our next function is the if function. Here we want to check for these sales reps who have sold the products whether the sales amount is higher than the target or not. So we want to find out whether they meet the target or not, and simply we can check here by writing whether the sales achieved, and like writing a if function. If the sales amount is greater than or equal to the target, then we can say yes, the target is achieved, otherwise the target is not achieved. We close the bracket and press enter. So you can see for bond the target is not achieved because the target was 6,500, whereas the sales amount done is only 5,800, which is lesser. Now you simply come down to the bottom right of the cell which contains the formula and double click. This will copy down the formula for all the cells. Now we can see here that Mickey beat the target because 6500 is more than 4600. If you would like to find out how much was the sales which was higher than the target, then we can simply calculate the additional sales by subtracting. So equal to, and then we can see if the sales amount is minus the target. And if you see a negative number means that this was a loss, and double click. So you can see now that Mickey generated $1,900 of more sales compared to the target. So this was the if function. And now let's say we want to count what is the total sales amount for calendars. As you can see, we have sold calendars quite a few times, similarly diaries a few times, and we would like to see the total sales of diaries or calendars. So we can simply do a sum if function, which is a sum, but this is a conditional sum. It combines the sum function we did earlier and the if function we just completed. So let's say we would like to sum the total sales of calendars, and so we will write equal to sum if this range of products need to be equal to calendars. So for calendars we can simply type here calendars, and if this range equals to calendars, then we want to sum the sales amount. Close the bracket, press enter, and the total sales of calendars is 27,164. We can double check this by clicking on the values only for calendars. So if I click this 1, 2, 3 and 4, we can see the total at the bottom, 27,164. So this is correct. But of course, if you want to change this to diaries, we will have to come in here and change the formula to diaries. And of course the total has changed, but this can be misleading because here we have written calendars, but we are not using this calendars. So it may be better to use this cell within the formula. So for example, let me change this color to yellow, and now what we can do is, rather than hard coding the value diaries, we can simply refer to the cell C12. In this case, the total is 27,164, and now if I change this to diaries, you notice that the total changes immediately. Just to double check, these are the total for the diaries, the 3, and the total at the bottom shows 16,700. So this is a way much better function. Sum is a conditional sum which is meeting the condition that you have provided. In our case, it's the product must match diaries, then we do the total sales. The next function we are going to look at is the count function. So for example, if we want to count how many sales were done or how many sales people we have, then we can simply do a count, and count of numbers works great. Count of all the sales done, and we get the answer is 9. This means we have 9 salespersons. So this is correct. But if we were to count the number of sales rep here, and we will get a 0. That's because count only counts numbers, it does not count text. So this is a problem. If you want to count text, you cannot use count. In this case, we will change the function to CountA. CountA is the function that counts alphabets as well. So CountA is actually a better function. It can count text as well as numbers. So if we do a CountA and then we choose the text, it will straight away give you 9, which is correct. We could have done a CountA on the numbers as well, and we will still get a 9. So count and CountA We have seen these two functions. However, if there is a blank, for example, if we have numbers like 55, 66, 77, and we have maybe like telephone, fax, and then there is a blank. So if this is the data and I want to do a count here, so what will happen? If I count these, close the bracket, you notice that we get a 3. And why we get a 3 is because there are only 3 numbers in here. And this does not count all the values. But if I do a count A, now we get a 5. So the function is now count A, and it's not counting the 6 cells, it's counting only 5. That's because there is a blank in here. So count A only counts text or number, but the value should be there. It does not count blanks. That means if I were to change this count A column to select a larger range, like from here to here, the answer would still be 5. There is another useful function which can count how many blanks, and this function is called CountBlank. CountBlank, and then of course we can select this area here, and you can see that there is only one blank. CountBlank. If I increase the range to go to multiple other cells, you can now see that the answer has changed to 4, because now there are 4 blanks here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's the CountBlank function for you. Our next example is to combine the text. We do this by using the Concatenate function. So for example, if I have the first name and the last name, let's say James Bond, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, and we would like to combine the name to get the full name. So we can simply use the concatenate function, and then the James, the first name, comma, the last name. And when you do that, you will get a combination. Straight away it says James Bond. Of course, now there's no space in between, and we are so used to the social distancing now. So let's put a bit of space in here by adding a space after the first name, and the space is enclosed within the quotation marks. So now you will see that we get James Bond, the full name combined. Double clicking, we can also get this for Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. Of course, you may be wondering why the Bond is with a small b and the mouse is with a small m. That's because our data is like that. But we could have used the proper function, and the proper function capitalizes the first letter of each word. So if I say proper and then point to this James Bond, you'll notice that now the name appears way much better. That's the proper function for you. Moving on, our next function is the Vlookup function. This is one of the very popular functions in Excel, and you must know this absolute gem. This can help you when you want to find out what is the total sales of any particular sales rep. So let us say we are looking for the sales rep called Bond, and we would like to know the sales amount. In this case, we will write that we want to do a vertical lookup, VLOOKUP of Bond. We are searching for Bond, and where we are searching is in this data area. So we just need the main information, but if you want to achieve this, we can also take this much. Then the next thing we are looking for is the total sales. So the sales within the red area is the first column, second column. Actually, it's the third column. So we will just say that we are looking for the third column and we would like to do an exact match which is false. By doing this, the sales amount of 5,800 shows up. If you'd like to format it, we can simply click on the comma and it will show up. We can reduce the decimal places. So we got the Vlookup, which is a vertical lookup of the name bond, and it looks up the sales amount which is in the third column. Test it out by changing the bond to Indiana. And you notice immediately it changes to 6,500 because the total sales for Indiana is 6,500. If we were to change this to Joyce, the sales changes to 4,500 here. Similarly, if we would like to find the target Vlookup of Joyce in the same red area, the whole data is selected, and this time for the target we are looking for 1, 2, 3 is the fourth column, and we are looking for an exact match, so we simply choose here false. The answer 3,500, and this is correct. So for Joyce the target was 3,500. We can also check whether the sales was achieved, and so here's the function. We look up Joyce in the data area and pick the fifth column. So by doing this repeatedly, we can pick any particular value, and this is good because we just need to change the name here to Donald, and now you can see that it picks up all the values. So maybe I highlight this cell to be the yellow cell, and now whenever we change the value in the cell, all the other columns will then be calculated based on the looked up values. So this can be a pretty useful column. Let me do a quick formatting. So we attach the comma and 0, and if you want this to be right aligned or center aligned, we can easily do this from these columns so that it looks neat and clean. Finally, you may want to see whether the sales was higher or lower, how much did they do extra. So this, you can try this on your own. Now the last thing I would like to show you is typing the names of salesperson can be troublesome. So what about if this was a drop-down list? Because chances are if somebody makes a spelling mistake like B-O-N-D and then by mistake they put a space in here, suddenly everything changes to not available, and you may be wondering, oh, it looks bond, but how come bond is not visible here? That's because there is a space at the end. If we get rid of the space, of course everything works as usual. So what we can do is by going to data and picking the data validation icon. So here's the data validation icon. When you click on the data validation, you can see here the cell says allow any value. This is the this is the reason it creates a problem. So we can choose here allow only from a list, and the list is only of the sales rep names. By doing this and choosing the source, click OK, and this becomes a drop down, and now if you choose Mickey, it shows the result for Mickey. If you choose Indiana, we see the result for Indiana as well as for Donald. So I hope you find this pretty useful. I have detailed videos on Vlookup, on how to use a drop-down list, and a lot of other features. Do make sure to watch other videos. I've given you the description of these videos in the description tab, and I hope you found it useful. If you did, then please like and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching. All the best.